I am living vicariously through Ace. I'm telling you, Ace can't stand Jeremiah, and he sees that Jeremiah is a scammer. He's messy. He knows he can get him riled up. He knows he's easy to piss off. And it cracks me up because that would be me. If I know that I can't stand somebody, I know I'm about to get them riled up just by doing any little thing, I'm going to keep doing it. And Ace is having a ball. You can tell Ace is having a ball getting Jeremiah riled up, and that shit is cracking me up. But if y'all was cracking up like I was, you about to be cracking up here because I'm about to. This episode was funny. This episode was funny. But if you're new here, hit subscribe. Do that right now. Turn the post notifications on all. We are on the road to 10K. Y'all have been showing me love since we started. Keep it up. Hit that thumbs up button. Drop a comment down below. I want to hear y'all's thoughts. I know we got a lot. It's funny too because the TikTokers who I'm pretty sure are the youthful side of life, the ones that have such an issue with Olandria doing what she did last night. Y'all wanted to make it seem like she's some mean girl and she has some beef for Huda. The real beef is what I was just talking about. But as you see, y'all look stupid. But we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, let's go. All right, so after the couple up ceremony, the girls head off. The guys stay by the fire pit, so they're all walking off and dispersing. So Nick ends up stating that he's there to get out of his comfort zone, and essentially Bella is normally his type, but they haven't elevated their relationship, which is true. And his gut was telling him to follow that chemistry that he has with Cierra, and I'm happy that he did that because that's what you're there to do. Like, we'll get into Bella and Nick later on. But him and Cierra are doing what you do in a relationship. They actually are talking. He's being able to court her. She's being able to kind of let him in. Whereas with him and Bella, there's not much going on. But we're going to get to it in a minute. But because Bella, she tried to have a moment and it fell flat because the moment made no sense. But he ends up stating that he doesn't want to hurt anybody, but it's about his journey as well, which is true. Like, granted, you don't want to hurt anybody, but also you would be hurting yourself by not fully engulfing in this experience. If you know that you want to explore something with Cierra, you need to go do that. Don't just stick yourself with her because you don't want to hurt her. But Taylor ends up talking about how Olandria was moving away from him, and the way she moved away from him when he sat back down, it was kind of weird. And they're like, so she can go and kiss somebody, but he can't stand up. And I'm like, as I said last night, I think I said it last night, I don't think either one of them were wrong. Like, I don't think Olandria was wrong for kissing Ace in that challenge because A is day one. That was day one when she did that. So if she wanted to kiss Ace, she had that right to do that. Nobody's closed off. It is day fucking one. And not only that, it was in a challenge too. If she wanted to do it, she wanted to do it. She's not wrong for that. But at the same time, Taylor is not wrong to stand up. If he wanted to go and try and explore another relationship or try and explore another connection, he has a right to do that as well because guess what? It is day two. It is day two. But I get what Olandria was talking about later on, but we'll get to that in a minute too. But Ace, he ends up stating that he wants everybody, he's pretty much telling the boys, I want every single one of y'all to explore these connections. Like, don't just close all the way in. And he looks at Jeremiah and is pretty much like, I'm talking about you especially. You could tell he knows that nigga is a scammer. But he was clocking them too. And Ace ends up saying that. And he ends up asking, like, essentially, does anybody here feel like Huda is approachable? And they all shaking their head no. And Jeremiah's talking about something, okay, but is that something wrong? Like, yeah, it's something wrong because it's too early for y'all to be locked in like y'all are. Like, y'all are doing too much. They get on my nerves. I'm telling you right now, I'd be ready to kick them off the villa if I didn't know the crash outs were coming. Me and Tammy Talks was talking about this. Everybody knows. Everybody on Twitter been talking about it. We want to see the crash out and we know it's coming. But Ace, he ends up stating that her sitting there acting like the boys that got up to go possibly explore a connection with Cierra, trying to make them out to be like they ain't shit. And it's like, right, he's pretty much correct because it's like, how you gonna sit here and say that they're not real men because they got up to explore a connection and it's day two? I cannot stress it enough. It is day two. It's day three now, but day two. Nobody should be locked in on anybody right now. It's crazy. But we get to Olandria and Bella. So they're sitting over there having a conversation, and Bella feels like she's vulnerable, obviously, because she is. But Olandria ends up stating that she feels like she ends up asking Bella if she was shocked about what had happened with Nick. And she says, yeah, a little bit, but especially because he had told her that they had had great conversations, but she's not too shocked as well because him and Cierra also did as well. But Olandria is noticing Huda over there talking to Chelley, and she's over there crying. And she's like, I hope what I said is not what's doing that. Everybody, I ain't gonna say everybody, the people that y'all know who I'm talking about on TikTok and on Twitter trying to get the pitchforks out for Olandria calling her a mean girl. She didn't mean anything by that, which we all knew that. And not only that, Olandria, she better than me because I wouldn't have done what she's about to do, but she didn't mean nothing by it. And she feels bad that she's over there crying over a harmless comment that she had made. But she's over there doing that. And Huda is over there telling Chelley that she would never do what Olandria did in front of everybody, and she could have addressed her in private. I said, that's rich coming from you, because what you did, you could have done in private. That's why Olandria said what she said, because you sitting here saying this shit in front of all of these people, especially all the men, whether Olandria felt some type of way about it, whether Chelley felt some type of way about it, whether Bella or who else am I missing? Whether Bella felt some type of way about it too, about their guys getting up. You're saying it in front of the men. Maybe the women just wanted to vent and have that girl talk together. If they felt some type of way about it, maybe she just wanted to talk to the girls about that. But it's like you sitting there saying that she should have said that in private. It's rich coming from you because you could have said that in private and then none of this would have happened. But Chelley ends up saying that she doesn't feel like Olandria made any harm by that, and she didn't. But Huda ends up saying, too, that she doesn't know any of the bombshells and barely knows the guys. I said, whose fault is that, Huda? It's your fault. Because you're so closed off and so just gung-ho and just so tunnel-focused on Jeremiah, you haven't gotten the chance to know anybody else because you don't want to. You don't want to. It's not her fault. But Bella ends up telling Olandria that her comment might have come off like Huda was doing too much, which she was. But Olandria ends up saying, like, I just meant like it was a comment that we could have just had juicy girl chat for, which is what I just said. But she ends up saying, like, she gets why Huda did what she did, but, like, it just was not for the guys, essentially. But Austin, he's sitting under there talking about he had thought that Chelley was going to stand up. And now that she didn't, he don't know how he feels about it. And he's sitting there saying, too, that he wanted to sit back down. I said, no, you didn't. You got up because you wanted to. Because we all know that you don't like black women. We know you don't like black people or black women. But Charlie ends up stating that he thought that Chelley might have stood up because they had a good chat and a good kiss, and he's a little bit disappointed that she didn't. I do love the fact that Chelley is getting all this attention. Like, she deserves it. Look at her. Beautiful. But Nick, he ends up going and pulling Cierra. So he ends up telling her how much of a good time they had in the hideaway. Coming back, everything was just good. And everybody was like, I ain't never seen you smiling like this before. And they're laughing and smiling. Obviously, she loves hearing that. And he's pretty much telling her too, like, essentially, like, well, no, he said this in his confessional. He said his brain is still kind of scrambled about his connections with Cierra as well with Bella. But Cierra essentially says in her confessional, she sees the potential with Nick and she's attracted to Nick and she's excited about getting explored. But we get Olandria. She ends up going and pulling Huda, and she sits her down in soul ties, and she was like, I just wasn't expecting for me to be the reason why you're out here crying, but I understand and I feel like I know why you're crying. So she ends up stating that she thought that Huda was gonna go pretty much go off on the boys, and her and Chelley was looking at each other like, oh, this is gonna be something that we could talk about with the girls. Like, this is gonna be some good juicy girl chat. And Olandria then says too, like, that's what I was trying to say eventually. Like, essentially, I was trying to just state that, but I didn't realize that it came out the way that it did and it hurt your feelings. But I thought about it and I could have said something differently, but I still fuck with you. You still my girl. I said, Olandria, you wasn't wrong for saying what you were saying, but it's bigger her to do that. It's bigger her to do that, which I'm like, good. I'm glad she did do it because the people online look stupid trying to make her out to be something that she's not. But Huda and Olandria, they share I love yous and whatever. But Taylor is coming up, and he ends up coming up to pull Olandria. But Huda ends up leaving, so he sits down with Olandria. So Olandria ends up asking him, like, how you're feeling or whatever. And he's like, I'm feeling good. He asks her how she's feeling, and she's like, I was a little bit thrown about what happened. So Taylor ends up stating that he has stood up because he's interested in exploring the connection with Cierra because they haven't really had a chance to talk. Olandria ends up stating though, but you could have still stayed down. You could have still stayed sitting down and still could have been with me as a couple and still could have actually got out there and explored that connection with her. Which, I mean, it's true because they literally said, like, we're coupled up, but we're not closed off. We're still open. So she got a point there, too. I don't feel like he was wrong to stand up, but she also got a point, too, because y'all already had that agreement, essentially. Like, y'all fucking with each other, but y'all not closed off. Y'all still are open to getting to know other people, so you don't necessarily have to get up. So she said that's what essentially irritated her a little bit, but she gets that they're open. But Taylor ends up saying, like, it wasn't his first intention to get up and do that. And she was like, you ain't hesitate to get up. And he's like, no. But Olandria ends up stating, too, like, if a 5 to 10 minute chat, and she's saying this in her confessional, if a 5 to 10 minute chat is all it takes, did you really like me as much as you claimed that you did? So she's starting to question a little bit. But Taylor, he ends up stating essentially like, you can't be mad at me for doing that because I wasn't mad at you for kissing Ace. And she's like, yeah, I understand that. So she understood that. So we tabled that. Austin and Chelley, they're talking and he ends up telling her that he thought that she was going to stand up. And she's like, yeah, I know. And she ends up stating, too, like she was surprised that he had stood up, but she isn't mad that he was putting himself out there because that's what she wants. She wants him to explore. And he ends up claiming that he really likes her. He wants to keep getting to know her. And she's like, I feel like neither connection that I've been building right now was enough for me to move, essentially. Like, I felt like it wasn't as significant for me to jump ship. So she ends up telling him, too, like, I still want to keep talking to you. I still want to keep getting to know other people as well. But I just felt like I wouldn't have been able to do that if I got up and coupled up with Charlie. So she also then says, too, like, in her confessionals, you could have bet me $100 that he was still going to be sitting there. And the fact that he wasn't, I was confused because I'm like, what's going on? But she says she's not mad about it. She says, like, I'm glad that he took the chance because he should be exploring. And that's what they should be doing. I said, in this moment when I watched that, I said, whoever she ends up with, she's the winner. I'm going to tell you right now, it's episode 3. I feel like she's going to win. I feel like she got it all to win. I feel like that's just what I feel. And I feel like if Ace plays it right and they end up at the end, they probably going to win. But Olandria, she ends up telling Chelley and Cierra upstairs pretty much what I said that she said in her confessional, that him standing up shocked her and was pretty much like the 5-minute conversation. I don't know if that was enough. And it's like, if it was enough to him to want to go ahead and try something else, like what were we? But Chelley ends up asking Bella if her and Nick had gotten a chance to speak. And she ends up stating no, but she wants to go talk to him right now. I had to give me some water. But Chelley, like I said, Chelley ends up asking Bella if her and Nick got a chance to talk. And she was like, no. I think I just said that she said yes. But she said no, she doesn't want to talk to him right now. I'm like, yeah, you about to go home because you need to. But they get ready to go head off for bed. Everybody's starting to get ready, but Ace and Chelley end up having a conversation. So Ace ends up pretty much talking about how Austin standing up caught him off guard. And she was like, I was like, yeah, sit your ass down. She doing it right. She making Ace see that she ain't just thinking about him. And that's what Ace wants. So her doing that is good because it's going to make him want to apply more pressure because it's like, you think that I'm just here for you, but I got other options too. That's pretty much what she's doing. But Ace is talking about how he was excited about it, though, the fact that he possibly could have had a chance with Chelley. But he ends up reeling her in. And when I say reeling her in, Ace player was playing. He got some game. He ended up having her come sniff his shirt. And when she came and sniffed his shirt, he gave her a kiss on her forehead. She started laughing. He started laughing. That was funny. But they head back in to go to sleep. Everybody else is in the rooms. And I was like, me and my sister look like, y'all gonna walk in there together? But she walks in and he waits for a beat. And then he comes in. I said that y'all smart. But she was laying in the bed with Austin. I found this funny. I don't know if y'all caught it. But Austin's laying there in front of her. And he's asleep. But she laying there with her eyes like this, and Ace walks away. You see her smirking and smiling at him. I said, oh. But the next morning, everybody's waking up. Ace is downstairs making breakfast for Bella, Chelley, and Olandria. And Chelley is upstairs with Olandria, and she's telling Olandria about how Ace had pulled her for the chat. And Olandria's like, ooh, what'd he say? So Ace ends up coming up to them as they're having this conversation, and he brings them breakfast. And I'm like, wow, this is the first act of chivalry that will go over well with Chelley for Ace, if that's what he's trying to do. So Shelley pays it forward and gives him a compliment on how he looks in that green fit that he had on. She said he looks nice and green. He said, don't be flirting with me. But Taylor ends up coming up as well to give Olandria breakfast. So she got her 2 meals. Olandria eating good. But Huda is sitting up there with them too. And I found it funny because I didn't see Jeremiah coming up there, but that's your real man. But Huda and Jeremiah, they're upstairs now eating breakfast on the balcony. And she ends up stating that she feels like they're the parents of the house. I said, how? I said, how are y'all the parents of the house? Y'all don't have it all together because you still ain't told him that you got a daughter. I said, the rest of the parents have been more honest with each other than y'all have. Like, let's keep it real. But she ends up stating that she feels like the both of them are very emotionally mature. I said, delusion, man, delusion. Like, the self-awareness is not there. But she ends up stating, too, that she feels like they're getting closer, or she's getting closer to telling him. She's stating this in her confessional, that she's getting closer to telling him that she does have a daughter. She wants to do it whenever she feels the time is right. And I'm like, the more you prolong this, it's not going to be good for you. So you got to do it. Like, you got to do it. She should have did it day one, but you got to do it because the more you prolong it, he's going to be looking at it like, okay, well, you withheld this much information from me for this long. What you going to do in the future? Like, that just doesn't set it off right. You got to be straightforward. You got to be honest to begin with. But Nick, he's feeding Cierra. They're bonding over Shrek. They got a lot in common. They ended up heading to the photo booth. Bella is talking to Huda. And she's talking about how she hasn't talked to Nick at all today. It's up to him to pull her for a chat, which, I mean, I get it. But Huda is like, so how do you feel about him not pulling you for a chat? And she starts crying. And she ends up stating that she feels small. And she says she wants to shine her light. She wants to do all that. But I'm like, but you're not putting enough effort in. I'm like, you got to have more conversations. Like, yes, you don't have to be physically doing what you're doing because that's your right. You don't have to do that. If she doesn't want to do that, she don't have to do that. But at the very least, have a conversation. When I say have a conversation, have something of substance. She don't be talking about shit. So why would Nick, like, what? There's nothing there but physicality. Like, that's all it is. He's physically attracted to her. I guarantee you they don't know shit about each other because they don't be having conversations. But Hood is comforting her and giving her words of encouragement. But she's stating, like, it's a lot of emotions that are flying and it's kind of scary. She said she never really had her guard up like that before. And she feels like she does now. But we get a scene with Nick and Huda. So he's sitting there asking her how she's doing. And he says that, she asked him how he's doing. And he says that he feels better than he did last night. But he hasn't talked to Bella yet. But he will do it. So Huda ends up asking him, like, if he's scared to talk to her. And he's like, I'm just nervous about how she feels about what had happened. So he also then tells her, too, that he told himself that he wanted to spend the day focusing on Cierra because his brain is already all over the place when it comes to Cierra and Bella. So he wanted to kind of like focus on one for the day and then figure out the next one. I'm like, that's a good way to think about it. But you on Love Island. You ain't got that much time. But Huda ends up telling him essentially, like, you can't tell Bella essentially that you're 50-50. Like, whenever you're doing recouplings and stuff, whenever that happens and you couple up with one person, you need to be telling that person that I'm more interested in this person. And it's just like, yeah, you can say that, but if he's not 100% sure on that, why would he tell them that? Like, if he is 50-50, he's 50-50. It would be even worse for him to lie when he is 50-50. But Nick ends up asking if Bella had talked to Huda and if she said anything to her about it. And Huda says, like, I feel like it's a slap in the face. Like, I feel like you should go talk to her. But he ends up stating that he still has feelings for Bella, but he's happy that he's being coupled up with Cierra and he wants to explore that. But Charlie and Bella, they're upstairs talking. Boring. She likes his accent. That's literally it. She said there's something that's pulling her towards him, and it's that accent. She ain't saying nothing else. But he starts speaking in Spanish, and she likes that, obviously. But Taylor's walking over to pull Olandria for another chat from the girls. Olandria got this cowboy fit on. She got her cowboy hat on. Body looks good. The body is bodying. Olandria is beautiful, too. But she comes over, and she apologizes for taking his move that night before, the way that she did. And she says, what did she say? I don't know what I wrote. I don't know what I wrote. But she ends up talking about how it needed to happen for her to kind of figure out how she wants to move going forward. But he ends up stating that the way that she had reacted to it was what had him a little bit like, but she apologized for it and he's going to drop it and let it go. So he then asked her, how is she going to move? Because she just made that comment. And she's like, I still want to get to know you. He was like, yeah, we still need to have more chats. So they start talking about love languages and stuff. I love the way they have conversations. When they have these type of like fun conversations, I love it because they're actually talking about shit. They're asking questions that you should be asking when you're trying to get to know somebody. So she loves gift giving. He does as well. They're bonding on that. He says he's a great gift giver because she ends up asking like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you? And he says it's 12. And she's like, you lying. And she ends up asking, like, what makes you know which gift is the best gift to give? And he's like, paying attention, like having a conversation, going shopping. And she's like, wow, you pay attention to detail. We're just alike. And she ends up talking about how she a trick. And she liked to trick a little bit. That was funny. Which, I mean, it ain't bad. Like, shit, if she want to trick on the dude that she want to trick on, then that's who she want to trick on. But I love their conversations. They have good questions to kind of, like, break the ice. That was a good one to break the tension that they had. And they're back laughing and goofing around. But we get a scene with Nick. Nick is working out with Ace. Bella comes walking by to go sit down. And he goes over to pull her for a chat. She's sitting over there. Wait, I almost forgot. He calls her Belle-Dasha. I saw a girl on TikTok earlier today saying it. And I found it so funny that he said that. Because that's the first time I heard it. But they go over to the dock. And Nick is pretty much telling her, like, I know that you like me and I like you. But when the recoupling came, I had thought about the moment, the conversations that me and Cierra had in the hideaway. And I felt like it would have been wrong to not go that way. But I'm still interested in you. So he's kind of like telling her, like, I'm still exploring her. I like what I got going on, but I still like you too. But it's like I want to say that he's doing too much, but he's not. He's not. And not only that, he's having those conversations that he could have with Bella, with Cierra, because Cierra's actually engaged. She's having the conversations. She's doing that stuff. She's actually doing something to actually get it progressing. Bella ain't doing shit, and she ain't talking about shit. But she ends up stating that she feels like last night he threw a curveball her way and made her look like a fool. How? She says, I wish you would have communicated that better. I wish you would have communicated. You haven't communicated with him, like, and you can tell she's trying to have like this, like, I'm empowering, like I'm telling the man how I feel. And it's just like, if it happened, y'all were communicating and he did what he did, then you would have a moment. But right now, I don't feel like he did anything wrong. But she ends up claiming like she's a cutoff queen, which... But she ends up stating that she's been done so dirty so many times and she's not willing to put herself in that position again. I'm like, it's day 3. And he ain't did nothing wrong to you. But she ends up stating, like, why would you tell me that you were happy in our couple and then walk away? So she ends up, like I said, trying to have the viral moment. Don't really care. But Chelley and Ace, they have another conversation. They started off with small talk. She likes people and she likes having attention. And they're talking about being introverts and extroverts. And she's talking about how goofy he is and how silly he is. And they're laughing and smiling. They have easy conversation as well. But she says essentially she's still stuck on that trick that he essentially did the night before where he made her come sniff him and he gave her a kiss. But Chelley ends up stating like she feels comfortable with Ace. She says she loves the back and forth banter that they have going on. She tells him obviously she's attracted to him. He's eating it up because he likes hearing that. And she's like, it's past that though. Yes, I'm attracted to you, but I'm trying to see if we click more on a deeper level than just physical attraction, which as she should and as she would. But Ace ends up stating in his confessionals that he loves that he can just have fun conversations with her. And he said that's what he looks for in a partner. And he says that she's something special, and she is. You better believe it. You better believe it. You got a dime in your face. You better not fuck it up. But Olandria, her, Bella, and Cierra, they're having a conversation, and they're pretty much talking about Bella's conversation with Charlie. She says he's sweet, but she doesn't know. But she really likes Nick. But she sat over there talking about she the cutoff queen. But you ain't cutting him off. Like, you ain't cutting him off. But Cierra pretty much echoes the same sentiment. She's having good conversations with people too, but it's Nick. But everybody's getting ready for the night. Ace, he is tripping about Well, he's tripping out about how all them dudes is not in there cleaning their shit and not cleaning after themselves. I'd have been pissed off too. But Olandria, she's telling the girls that she's learned so much about herself already being here. And the fact that she was able to have that conversation with Taylor without crashing out, lashing out, even though she was upset, had all those emotions going on. She's proud of herself. I'm proud of you too. But Ace, he's over there talking to Jeremiah. This is where Ace started the mess. This is where you could tell Ace is just trying to get him riled up. And I love it. I love it. But he's talking to Jeremiah, asking what his type is. And Jeremiah says foreign and Latino women. We know. We all knew that. But you confirmed it. Thanks to Ace. But Ace ends up saying, so if some foreign shit come in here, what you going to do? How you going to react? He says that's just what's going to have to happen. That's what Jeremiah says. She don't have to come in here. Bring some foreign shit in here. I want to see what happens. Especially after what happened last night. At the end of the night. But everybody's downstairs mingling and stuff. And Huda ends up pulling Chelley. So she ends up stating that she has a question for her. And she pretty much tells her, like, you, Olandria, and Bella are the only ones that know that I have a daughter. And she says it's essentially killing me because I'm pretty much stating stuff as she normally would. And it's like she's trying to not slip up. So Chelley's like, so why is it making you not want to tell anybody? Like, why don't you want to tell anybody? So she ends up stating like she doesn't want it to be used against her like it has in the real world. And Chelley's like, if they don't fuck with you being a mom, fuck them. I'm like, it's literally that simple. It's literally that simple. But it's clear that girl is just insecure. And I hate that for her. I do. But like that's a part of your life. If somebody don't accept you for being a mom and having a child, that's not your person. It's just that simple. It's not your person. There's somebody out here that is better for you. But Chelley's pretty much stating that to her. And Chelley tells her, like, I'm shocked that you haven't even told Jeremiah. And she ends up saying, too, that she wants to make sure that this is what Huda's saying. She wants to make sure that his mindset is in the right place and is mature enough to process that. Why do you have to kind of like manipulate that? Do it whenever he doesn't have time to kind of like prepare for it. So you can really see how he really feels. Like she obsessed with him. That's just what it is. And that's the problem. But Chelley ends up saying like, she's a big part of you. Like her, your daughter, you are Huda, but that's also a big part of who Huda is. And if he's really the one, you can say it and his response is his response. And you just take it for what it is. I said, hello. But Huda says her biggest worry is that he will be upset that she didn't tell him sooner. Obviously, he probably will be. And in my opinion, he wouldn't be wrong for that because you should have told him. And she also says, like, either that or he won't see himself being with somebody who's a mom. And that is okay as well. If he doesn't want to be with somebody that has kids, that is his prerogative. It's not a bad thing. Like, it's not wrong for him to not want that. But if he doesn't, that's not your person. Like, that's just not your person. But you done got yourself in too deep and got your emotions too involved. And that's the problem. You should have told him on day one. So your emotions wouldn't have been so involved if he doesn't want to pursue it. Like, she fucked her own self. She did that herself. But she says she's scared of rejection. And Chelley says rejection's okay. Like, it's not that bad. But she says essentially you'll have your answer and you can set yourself free and you can breathe. Exactly. But Ace ends up getting a text about the game that they're about to play. And Chelley's face that she made whenever he got that text cracked me. She's looking like, what the fuck? But the text pretty much states it's time to compare numbers and state your case in tonight's game. We already know what that game is going to be. It's called State Your Case. It's boys versus girls. They have to rank the opposite sex from least to most to a juicy question. The team with the most correct wins. I'm going to just tell you now, the guys won. But the questions that they asked, who do you think had cheated the most? They had Nick at the top. And Jeremiah was number 2. He's sitting there talking about something that's crazy. And he looked a little bothered about it. And Huda's sitting over there saying, I don't think so. I don't think so. He cheated. He's definitely cheated. But the boys, they got Huda at the top. And they got the 2 black queens at the bottom. Because, you know, black women don't cheat. But Ace and Charlie, they haven't cheated. Austin has cheated 6 times. Chelley said, damn. Olandria ends up saying that she don't even know who Austin is. I said, you don't. You don't know the Austin that we know. You don't. But Jeremiah ends up saying that he only cheated once. He explained it. Hood is sitting over there saying to the girls, he took accountability. That's why I stayed. I said, that's not a flex. But okay. Because you said over there talking to 3 women, and I'm talking about Olandria, Chelley, and Cierra. And then you got Bella over there. But the 3 women I'm talking about, they seem very secure in who they are. I don't think they would stand for that shit. But she stated that like it was a flex. But Nick, he ends up stating that he, because they had 0 for him, which lets you know that he probably lied. But he ends up stating that he cheated once. He owned up to it. Ace is sitting there laughing. I said, of course you laugh with your messy ass. But Huda, Bella, Cierra, and Olandria, they had 0. Chelley cheated one time. She ended up saying it was her and her homegirl, and they kissed. Does that really count? Does that really count? I don't know. But the next question was who's had sex, or what did I say? Who had sex the most? Okay, who's had sex with more people in one day? Austin done fucked 4 girls in one day. They talking about, damn, do I believe that? But then again, it's like I can believe it a little bit. He said that he got a high libido. But Chelley, she's done it twice. She was dating girls, obviously. She said 1 girl slept over in the morning and 1 slept over at night. I said, Ace gonna like that. Ace gonna like that. That's a little bit freaky shit. But Huda, she has 2. Ace talking about some damn. I'm like, you said damn there, but you didn't say damn with Chelley because they got the same number. But it was funny. But Jeremiah, he looked like he was thrown off about it. But he tried to act like he wasn't. But Chelley and Olandria, their reactions to everything was cracking me up. Ace's was cracking me up. I got dry mouth like a mug. I've been talking for 31 minutes straight. But Jeremiah, he has told, because the next question was about love or whatever. And he had told 10 girls that he had loved them. And Olandria said, yeah, Jeremiah's crazy. He is. But Nick, they started talking about nudes. Nick done sent 800 nudes. Everybody was floored. Nick ends up talking about how he had a long-term, long-distance relationship. I said, I guess. But Jeremiah sent 50. Austin has sent 1,000. A trip. Huda, she sent 12. Chelley and Cierra have sent 5. And Olandria sent 15. The body count question. Ace's messy ass is sitting there talking about something. Y'all think we should move Huda to the end? I see you crazy. but Charlie, he's got 108. Austin has 104. Cierra got 18. And she said, I'm a grown woman. She said, look, I'm not ashamed of my experiences. And if you judging me for it, you need to go get laid. I said, I know that's right. I know that's right. Chelley got 12. The way they had it, I thought Chelley was going to have about 50. But the boys, they won the game. Like I said, the girls, they weren't happy about it. But after the game, the boys, they're downstairs. The girls are upstairs. They're recapping about what just happened. The girls are shocked that Austin has had all that shit going on. And the way he be acting in the house, it's just not making sense. They're also a little bit shocked about Charlie, too. Nick ends up asking Charlie how he felt about the girls calling him a liar or whatever. And he's like, I expected it a little bit. It didn't really faze me, but I can see them possibly getting egg. And Huda ends up stating that she isn't surprised about Jeremiah telling 10 girls that he loves them because he was love bombing her first. And I say, yeah, but you told him that you love him too. Like, you ain't no better than him. But she ends up stating that she wouldn't be surprised if he moves as fast as he does with her with other girls on the outside. The TikTok girl will confirm that for you. But Nick, he ends up asking what Jeremiah feels or how he feels about how Huda had done fucked 2 people in one day. And Jeremiah ends up stating, like, she explained it. I understood. Ace is sitting there asking a bunch of follow-up questions. Like, you can tell he's trying to do it. And Ace ends up stating, how would you feel if y'all fucked and essentially you didn't get her to climax? And he ends up stating that Jeremiah says, I'm not worried about it because I will do that. Ace says, but what if you ain't the dude to do it? What if you like the first dude? And I was like, he said, but you don't think that she would be like the first dude and pretty much say, yeah, that was great, but be sitting there lying about it. Jeremiah said, so you saying that I'm going to be that guy? He said, no, I'm not saying that, but put yourself in his shoes. And Jeremiah sitting there talking about, that's a dumb question. I said, you bothered by it. But Ace is sitting over there laughing. I said, Ace is a fool. But Huda and Jeremiah, they're at the dock. This is the last scene. This is the scene we was waiting for, where she about to tell him about her daughter. So she ends up asking him to elaborate on him telling the girls that he had loved them so much. And he ends up saying that he was in high school. And he says essentially like the majority of those was when he was a teenager. But when he was 20 years old, he only did it like 2 or 3 times. And he didn't do it a lot. Ace ends up telling Taylor, as those two were talking, that Jeremiah essentially is a scammer. Like, the way he's answered these questions, it just don't make sense to me. And he's telling Taylor, like, Jeremiah's answers don't surprise him. And he was wondering if anybody else is peeping that shit. Like, it just don't make sense. But he ends up stating that all that love bombing and shit off rip is crazy. And Taylor's like, yeah, it is. But back with Jeremiah and Huda, Jeremiah ends up talking about how he loves like a family-oriented person, which I find funny because it's like, it's crazy how he's talking about this as she's about to state it. But we get back to Ace too, who is telling Taylor that Jeremiah is pretty much playing it safe. And that shit just don't seem real to me, like him and Huda's relationship. And I'm like, you dead on, because it's not. But Huda ends up telling Jeremiah that she got so much to tell him. And he's like, so what you mean by that? She ends up stating that she wants him to stay true to his feelings regardless of what she says. And he says, again, what do you mean by that? She's sitting there just beating around the bush. I said, if you don't get it out, spit it out. So I'm about to see, look, I got dry mouths and I'm sitting here trying not to laugh. But she ends up stating there's a reason I'm so emotionally mature. I'm like, you're not, though. But she ends up stating, I'm not ashamed of it, but I didn't know how you'd react. As she's doing all this stalling, he's making these faces. And she's like, just listen. And he's like, I am. And she just sitting here beating around the bush. But she finally ends up telling him that she is a mom. He looked deflated. I'm not going to lie to you. When it first came out, he looked deflated. I was like, he looked like he about to pass out. So he then asked her how many kids, and she says one, and he's like, I said, this is exactly what I knew was going to happen. But she's sitting over here acting like, oh, this is a real man. Life flashed before his eyes. But he's sitting there looking at the ground, and she's talking about how she want him to look at her, and he's like, I'm like, damn. I'm like, she looking hurt. And it's like, I want to feel bad for her, but she fucked up. You should have told him that to begin with, and then you wouldn't be in this situation. Because if you would have told him that to begin with, before y'all got y'all's feelings involved, he could have processed it, and maybe he could have continued to do what y'all doing right now. But the fact that it's 3 days later, and he thought he essentially knew everything that there really was to know about you from a face value, now he got things to think about. And we'll see how that happens tomorrow. We didn't get a cliffhanger. We didn't get no preview. So we'll see. We'll see. But it was interesting. Thank y'all for thugging it through because I got dry mouth. But thumbs up the video if you gotten this far. Drop a comment down below. Subscribe if you're new. Shout out to y'all. Y'all been running it up. Running it up. Let's keep it going. We're going to be here all season. We got Beyond the Villa too. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen after this season wraps up. And then we got Love Island Games. So we're going to be here. We're going to be here for the rest of the year. So hit subscribe. Turn your post notifications on, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.